Okay, I want to gently push this stuff in and make sure I'm not hitting anything. If you've got a wire nut behind there and this is not pushed in all the way, don't think that all I have to do is put a screw in there. I'll just ram the screw in there and the back side of this will push in. Sometimes that doesn't happen and you kind of bend this plate out or something, or the light switch doesn't want to fit in there properly. So make sure you got enough room in there. Make sure it's fitting flat to the wall. If it's kind of coming out at an angle, you don't want that. You want everything tight and flat. So when you put the cover plate on, this reveal that goes around here is all nice and the same. Okay, so I'm gonna fish this back in there where the other ones were. I already told you why I'm using these sheetrock screws, because that's what was there before. And this is going to go in there nice. And on this, there's a little slide here. I'm not quite sure exactly where this is going to land just yet. I want the light switch. If you've got a paint mark around it, you might have to line that up. But you want to kind of straighten this too. I see this has to go over to the right. Oh, and it can't really go very far because there wasn't very much slop in this box. Remember? I mean, I could have taken the sheetrock and kind of cut it a little bit, but it should fit. I'm looking at this, lining it up. I don't want this thing crooked at all, because that's another pet peeve of mine. I like to see that the cover plates are straight. Okay. Got that snug. It looks pretty straight. If you got a question, you can measure it. And see, it's slightly off. It almost seems like the top needs to go over. And it was hitting that sheetrock a little bit. And it's not giving me much room to slide this. Okay, the other light switch obviously wasn't as fat on the sides, so it gave me a little bit more, gave me a little bit more room to slide this around. But as long as I'm happy with it, it'll be okay. I'm just going to kind of pry on it a little bit and tighten this screw up. Okay, in fact, that looks like I went too far now. I guess I gotta be that way. That's what it is. I gotta go that way. About right there. Okay. There, that's looking pretty good. About like that. If you're really anal about it, you can measure this again. And that looks pretty good. Okay. Now, I could turn the breaker back on right now, but I feel confident I'm not going to have to move it anymore. I take the light switch cover plate back on, put that on there. It's got really small threaded screws on there. Some light switches are different than others. See how short that screw is? If you had the regular small little light switch here, then the screws would be longer. That's an old style. These are new style. The one I took out was like that too. And some electricians even go as far as wanting their screws to line up in the same I don't usually do that. I just make it snug. Wherever it fits, because if I try to over tighten that thinking, oh, I need to go this way a little bit further, depending what type of cover plates you have, you could crack it. Very easy to crack these ivory. Well, this is a white cover plate, but it's a thick, stiff vinyl, or not vinyl, but kind of like plastic. They also have vinyl cover plates that don't crack, but if you tighten it too much, you stand back in the light, you could see where it dimples it. Okay, there, that looks pretty good, huh? We're just about done with this. That didn't take very long. Now I'm going to go and turn the breaker back on. We're going to see if it works. I wasn't going to show you this part, but here's another tip for you. Yes, it's all about tips. You never know what Joe's going to say next, right? I actually came down here and turned it back on, and I thought, oh, there's a tip I want to tell you about. So I ran back down here with my video camera, spending a little bit of extra time on here talking to you about this breaker. Now, all you should have to do is turn it back on. Okay, we're going to turn it back on. It should click, it should line up with the other one. But if you have it off and you go and try to turn it back on and it wants to go on fast, and all of a sudden it backs up and it stops halfway, let's say, you think, I don't know what's going on, what's happening, you keep trying to turn it to the right and it doesn't go on, doesn't go on, doesn't go on, that means that the circuit has tripped, and that whatever you've done has done something improperly, or maybe a wire nut got loose from a wire nut, maybe there was another existing wire nut that you didn't pull out of the box because you didn't think you needed to. As you were pushing everything else in there, it kind of pushed on that and one of the wires was loose in that one or something. Either way, stop what you're doing and go back, and if it's tripped, it'll mean that there's no power to it. But if it is tripped, what you have to do is then you have to take it and push it as hard as you can. Sometimes you have to push pretty hard to turn it to the off position, okay? Then you can turn it back on after you look at the box and figure out what's going on. Okay, some people don't realize that. If any breaker trips and you can't turn it back on. I had a friend of mine one time, he called me from Maui and I was on the mainland. He says, hey Joe, we can't get our lights back on. Everything's dark and the power's off to the light switches and everything in the bathroom. What do we have to do? We tried to turn the breaker back on, and he wasn't turning, it had tripped, and he wasn't pushing it hard enough to snap off before he tried to turn it back on. And sure enough, he turned it off, and then he turned it back on, and it snapped on, and it only tripped because they had plugged in a heating iron for your hair and a hair dryer at the same time or something, and it overloaded the actual circuit, and that's why the breaker tripped. Wasn't anything that he was doing wrong, but I walked him through it, and sure enough he was able to turn it back on. Okay, so there's a tip for you if that breaker were to trip and not go all the way back on. Okay, so now we're going to go back up. This was, okay, there. Now we're going to go back up and check out our switch. Well, we know the power is back on. And I want you to see what I see when we turn this on. The switch just happens to be in the off position. So obviously this is not going to work. Turn that on. And sure enough, the lights go on in these cubbies. And I'm going to leave it right like that. I'm going to dim it. Let's turn off the light in by the front door. And see, remember I was telling you, sometimes they put the light switches in wrong. And look at this, here's the front door switch. It was that one, on, off. Well, they flipped it backwards. This should be on up there. And I don't think there's another switch for this. I'm gonna look first. Oh, there is. Okay, see, this one here controls that too. So see, depending on how I turn it, I can turn it on there, and then when I come over here, I have to turn up here for that to be off. So if I use this one more, and if I don't use that other one at all, I'm going to have that down like that, okay? Then I can turn this one like that. Now, every time I come through the front door, if that's what you want, on, off. You see? That's how a three-way works over here, like that, okay? Enough of that. Let's get back over to here. Hey, I just kind of, the way I go, and I just start talking about different stuff. Okay, so right now, I look over here at the dimmer. I have it up as high as it goes, and then I can slide, I just slide that. Okay, so we'll see how well that works in here. And at night, this will look really nice. She's got, there looks like some sort of drum there, and she's got this little flute there, and some bird there. We might hang the bird, I don't know, we might hang the bird up there. Just some nice little things that, you know, could look nicer at night if that silly light up there could dim. And now we can make it dim by using our new dimmer light switch. Okay, I'm going to hold this here, and now I'm going to dim the lights down. Let's get those down. See? And I can dim them way down. Look, that's as low as I can dim them. And if that is too low at night, I could raise it up just a little bit. I don't have to have it that high. So I'm happy. And I think Momi's going to be happy too. This was something that she really wanted to have done. Well, that's all I got for this time. But I'll be back with more